Cristiano Ronaldo had been here before, standing on the precipice of history, moments away from another defining match. His body, sculpted through years of relentless discipline, was in peak form. His mind, sharpened by the weight of expectation, was locked in. This wasn't just another game. This was a moment that could cement his legacy even further, another opportunity to prove why he remained one of the greatest to ever step onto a football pitch. The world watched, waiting for another masterclass, another display of brilliance that had become almost routine for him. But then, in an instant, something shifted. During warm-ups, a sharp pain shot through his leg, a sensation so brief, so sudden, that most players might have brushed it off. But Ronaldo knew his body better than anyone. He had pushed it beyond its limits, rebuilt it after injuries, conditioned it to withstand pressures that would break lesser athletes. He signaled for medical attention, expecting nothing more than a quick assessment, a routine clearance to get back on the field where he belonged. Instead, he was met with hesitation. The physio knelt beside him, pressing against the affected area, analyzing every subtle response. The murmurs among the staff grew louder, the tension visible on their faces. Ronaldo remained composed, waiting for what he assumed would be a simple confirmation that he was good to go. But then the words came, measured, careful, yet carrying the weight of finality. "You're not fit to play, Cristiano. We can't clear you." For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The noise of the stadium, the distant sound of teammates moving through drills, the buzz of anticipation in the air, it all faded. The words hung there, defying everything Ronaldo had built his career on. Not fit, not cleared. Him, a man who had conditioned his body to perfection. A player who had played through pain, through pressure, through the kind of moments that defined champions. The decision wasn't made by his opponents. It wasn't a referee's call, a tactical substitution, or a result of poor form. It was his own team, the very institution that relied on his brilliance, making the choice to sideline him. Was it genuine concern for his health, a calculated move to preserve him for future games? Or was there something deeper at play? Something political, something unseen, something that extended beyond just a medical call? He didn't argue, he didn't lash out. He simply stood there, absorbing the weight of what had just happened. Because if there was one thing Cristiano Ronaldo had learned over the years, it was that moments like these, the ones designed to hold him back, were the very ones that fueled his greatest comebacks. Ronaldo's jaw tightened, his breath steady but deliberate. He had spent decades conditioning his body to be a machine, pushing it to limits most athletes wouldn't dare attempt. He knew when something was serious and when it wasn't, and right now he knew without a shred of doubt that he could play. "I know my body, I know what I can handle." His voice was controlled, unwavering. It wasn't a plea. It was a fact. But facts didn't seem to matter. The physio shook his head again, this time with more finality. The decision wasn't changing. No clearance, no play. Just like that, a man who had defied the odds time and time again, a man whose very existence was proof that hard work could outlast talent, was being told to sit down. It didn't matter that he had carried teams on his back before. It didn't matter that he had played through pain, through pressure, through the most intense moments football had ever seen. Tonight, he was being told no. And the world was watching. The cameras were locked onto him, capturing every micro-expression, every slight movement, every flicker of emotion that crossed his face. The commentators, unprepared for this sudden twist, scrambled to process what was happening. The crowd murmured in confusion, some shifting in their seats, others checking their phones, already seeing the headlines flood in. Is this the end? They can't do this to him. Age finally catching up to Ronaldo. The internet was already ablaze. Social media erupted with debates, arguments, theories. Some fans were furious, demanding explanations. Others were heartbroken, fearing that this was the first undeniable sign of decline. And then there were the critics, the ones who had been waiting for this moment, the ones who had spent years calling him past his prime. They saw this as validation. They saw it as proof that time had finally done what no defender could, stopped Cristiano Ronaldo. But through all the noise, all the speculation, Ronaldo remained silent. He didn't argue. He didn't protest. He didn't plead his case to the medical staff, the coaches, or the cameras. He simply nodded once, a slow, measured motion, and then turned away. His face unreadable. His stride as composed as ever. No outburst, no frustration, no sign of defeat. And that's what made it terrifying. Because when a man like Cristiano Ronaldo walks away without a word, the world knows. He's not accepting the decision. He's planning his response. And whatever it is, it's coming. Ronaldo didn't go home. He didn't sit in the stands sulking. He didn't disappear into the background like a player who had just been told his time was up. Instead, he walked straight past the dressing room, past the media waiting for a reaction, past the questions being thrown at him. He had no time for words. He had already decided his response. Within minutes, he was in his private training facility, the one designed for moments exactly like this. Moments when the world doubted him. Moments when the system tried to sideline him. Moments when he needed to remind everyone exactly who they were dealing with. The doors shut, the cameras off, at least for now. What followed was nothing short of brutal. No warm-ups, no easing into it. Just pure, relentless training. Sprints at full speed, pushing his legs harder than ever. Explosive jumps, testing every muscle, forcing them to respond. Ball drills, rapid footwork, precise shooting. Every motion executed with controlled aggression. Sweat dripped from his face, but he never slowed down. He wasn't just training, he was sending a message. To the doctors, to the critics, to every single person who thought they could dictate when he was finished. Hours later, the world received its answer. A single post appeared on Ronaldo's social media. A black and white video, silent, powerful. Clips of him sprinting at full speed, launching shots into the back of the net, training with an intensity that didn't just look like a man recovering. It looked like a man preparing for war. The caption, 3 simple words, "Doubt me, watch me." And just like that, the internet exploded. Fans who had been heartbroken just hours before were now fired up, rallying behind him. The comment sections flooded. This is why he's the GOAT. They really thought they could stop him? He's coming back stronger than ever. The hashtags trended worldwide. Sports analysts scrambled to adjust their narratives. Former players weighed in, some in awe, some in disbelief. Even his critics, the ones who had called it over, were forced to acknowledge what was happening. The pressure mounted. Could the team really keep him benched? Could they justify their decision when the entire world was watching him prove, in real time, that he was still at the top? Then the next match arrived. The team had no choice. The lineup was announced. Cristiano Ronaldo starting 11. And when he stepped onto that field, not just cleared, but sharper, faster, hungrier than ever, the message was clear. They had tried to stop him. They had tried to decide his fate. But Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't wait for permission. He writes his own story. Ronaldo didn't go home. He didn't sit in the stands, sulking. He didn't disappear into the background like a player who had just been told his time was up. That's not who he is. That's not what made him a 5-time Ballon d'Or winner, a global icon, a name that has been whispered in debates about the greatest of all time for over a decade. No, instead, he walked straight past the dressing room, past the media waiting for a reaction, past the questions being thrown at him. The reporters leaned in, microphones out, waiting for a comment, something, anything to confirm the frustration they assumed he felt. But Ronaldo didn't say a word, because words weren't necessary. He had already decided his response. The moment the stadium lights faded behind him, he was dialing his team, his private trainer, his staff who knew exactly what needed to be done. He wasn't going to argue with a medical decision. He wasn't going to plead his case to people who didn't believe in him. He was going to do what he had always done, prove them wrong. Within minutes, he was at his private training facility, the one designed for moments exactly like this. The walls lined with jerseys from every stage of his career: Manchester United, Real Madrid, Juventus, Portugal. All reminders of the times he had been doubted before. All reminders of the times he had answered every critic not with words, but with action. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing, no taking it easy. He went straight into the most brutal training session he had put himself through in months. His mind was locked in. His body? It would follow. No warm-ups, no easing into it, just pure relentless training. The first sprint was explosive, full speed, no caution. He pushed his legs to their limits, feeling every fiber of muscle stretch and contract, forcing his body to respond, again, and again, and again. His breathing was controlled, precise, just like his movements. Every second mattered. Every drill had a purpose. Footwork drills followed, rapid and aggressive, his feet moving as if he were on the pitch in the 90th minute of a Champions League final. The ball barely left his control as he weaved between cones, spinning, cutting, changing direction with the kind of precision that made defenders fear him. Then the shots, one after another, fired into the back of the net with surgical accuracy. Left foot, right foot, volleys, driven strikes, headers, every type of finish he had perfected over the years, all executed with a single purpose, to remind the world that he was far from done. Sweat dripped from his brow. His shirt soaked through, but he didn't slow down. He didn't stop. He couldn't. Because this wasn't just about proving fitness. This was about proving a point. He wasn't just training, he was sending a message. To the doctors who had told him he couldn't play. To the critics who had written their obituaries on his career. To the world that had, for even a second, entertained the idea that Cristiano Ronaldo was finished. Then the world received its answer. A single post appeared on Ronaldo's social media. A black and white video, silent, powerful. Clips of him sprinting at full speed, launching shots into the back of the net, training with an intensity that didn't just look like a man recovering. It looked like a man preparing for war. The precision, the fire in his eyes, the relentless repetition of every movement, every drill, every strike. This wasn't a man who was sitting out. This wasn't a man who was done. This was a man who was about to come back stronger than ever. The caption, 3 simple words, doubt me, watch me. And just like that, the internet exploded. Fans who had been heartbroken just hours before were now fired up, rallying behind him. The comment sections flooded with pure energy. This is why he's the GOAT. They really thought they could stop him? He's coming back stronger than ever. The hashtags trended worldwide. #DoubtMeWatchMe, #Ronaldo Unstoppable, #GOAT Mentality. Sports analysts scrambled to adjust their narratives. They had been talking about his decline just hours before, questioning whether this was the moment Ronaldo finally had to accept age. But now they had no choice but to acknowledge the reality. He wasn't just responding. He was rewriting the story in real time. Former players weighed in, some in awe, some in disbelief. Even his critics, the ones who had called it over, were forced to acknowledge what was happening. Because while others talked, speculated, debated, Ronaldo had done what only the greats do. He let his work do the talking. And then the pressure shifted. Could the team really keep him benched? Could they justify their decision when the entire world was watching him prove, in real time, that he was still at the top? The fans weren't just questioning the medical team anymore. They were demanding answers. Demanding that the man who had defied logic for over 2 decades be given the chance to do it again. Then the next match arrived. The tension was thick, the speculation is endless. Would he play? Would they risk it? And then the moment came. The lineup was announced. Cristiano Ronaldo starting 11. The roar from the crowd was deafening. The internet went into overdrive. The story had come full circle. And when he stepped onto that field, not just cleared, but sharper, faster, hungrier than ever, the message was clear. They had tried to stop him. They had tried to decide his fate. But Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't wait for permission. He writes his own story. The moment Ronaldo stepped onto the pitch, the entire world felt the weight of what had just happened. This wasn't just a player returning after being sidelined. This wasn't just another comeback story. This was something far bigger, something that had transformed from a team's medical decision into a global event. The cameras zoomed in on him during the warm-up, his every movement analyzed, his every touch scrutinized. Was he moving freely? Did he look comfortable? Was there even the slightest hesitation in his step? The answer became clear within seconds. He was sharper than ever, explosive sprints, quick turns, every movement executed with the precision of a man who had spent every waking moment proving that he never should have been counted out. The doubts, the debates, the speculation, it all evaporated the second he touched the ball. But off the field, the fallout had only just begun. The media immediately turned their attention to the team's decision-makers. The press conferences were no longer about the match itself. Instead, the journalists fired questions at the medical staff, at the coaching team, at the officials who had told the world's greatest athlete that he wasn't fit to play. Did you misdiagnose the situation? Was there pressure from within the club to bench him? Looking at his performance today, do you regret your decision? The answers were vague, evasive, carefully worded, but the damage had already been done. Because no matter how much they tried to justify it, the reality was undeniable. Cristiano Ronaldo had just made them look like fools. Social media was in absolute chaos. Ronaldo just shut down every hater in the most Ronaldo way possible. They said he was done. He didn't argue. He just came back and proved them wrong. How do you tell CR7 he's not fit? He's more fit than 99% of the players on that pitch. The critics who had doubted him were suddenly silent. The ones who had declared this the beginning of his decline now had to rewrite their narratives. The sports analysts, the former players who had started entertaining the idea that maybe, just maybe, age had caught up to him, were now forced to eat their words. But Ronaldo? He didn't say a thing. No celebratory posts, no jabs at the medical staff, no "I told you so," because he didn't need to. He had never been about proving people wrong with words. He had always let his football do the talking. And tonight, it spoke louder than any headline, any social media post, any argument ever could. He had been doubted. He had been written off. And yet, once again, he had done what only legends do. He had turned doubt into fuel. He had taken rejection and turned it into a moment of greatness. And the world? The world had just been reminded that Cristiano Ronaldo isn't finished. Not even close. Greatness isn't about never facing setbacks. It's about how you respond to them. Every athlete, every competitor, every person striving for something bigger will eventually hit a wall. They'll be told they're not good enough, not ready, that their time is up. Most people accept it. They lower their heads, take a step back, and let someone else write the ending of their story. But legends don't argue, they don't complain, they don't demand validation, they prove themselves. Cristiano Ronaldo just reminded the world why he's built different. He was told no. He was sidelined by the very people who were supposed to trust in him. He could have fought it with words. He could have made it a controversy. He could have turned it into a distraction. Instead, he let his actions speak louder than anything else. He worked. He pushed himself. And when the moment came, he stepped onto the pitch and did what he does best: dominate. This wasn't just about fitness. It wasn't just about football. It was about mentality. The mindset that separates the greats from the rest. The refusal to accept limitations placed by others. The ability to turn rejection into motivation. Setbacks into comebacks, doubt into legacy. So now the question is, what would you have done? If you were in his position, would you have accepted the decision? Sat out, played it safe, and waited for the next opportunity? Or would you have done what Ronaldo did? Push back, prove yourself, and remind the world exactly who you are? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear what you would have done in his shoes. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because this is the mentality that creates legends.